All right, so lesson 4.4 is all about parallel and perpendicular lines, right? Now, it basically extends from what we've done over the past couple of days, and it puts it all together. So let's take a look at the first part. First off, right, we know to write the equation of a line, right, we can either do y equals mx plus b, right, or we can use point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where in both of these, m is the slope, right? And when I look at x1 and y1 here, that is just a point on the line, okay? If I look at b here, right, 0b is your y-intercept, okay? Now, the number one rule you have to know for this lesson is that in geometry and math, what we have is called parallel lines. And these are two lines that extend forever and ever, right? They are two lines that extend forever but never intersect. Okay, so when I look at it, if this line extends like this and this line extends like this, those are parallel lines. Okay, now perpendicular lines, these are lines that intersect to form right angles. Okay, so when we look at parallel lines, right, what we know about parallel lines are the slopes are equal. Okay, so if the slope of line A is A over B, then the slope of line B is going to have the same exact slope. However, if I look at perpendicular lines, right, and these are lines that intersect to form right angles, right, 90-degree angles, these slopes are what we call opposite reciprocals. Okay, meaning if the slope of my first line is A over B, the slope of my second line would be the opposite. So if that slope is positive, this one would be negative. If it's negative, then it'd be positive. The opposite of B over A. Okay, so knowing how to use the fact that they're parallel or perpendicular to find the slopes is really, really important. So with this, right, the first set of questions says, determine if the lines are parallel, all right, and then find the slope of the other line. Okay, so the first one says, the lines below are parallel. If the slope of the solid line is 2, what is the slope of the dashed line? Since we know parallel lines have the same slope, if the slope of this line is 2, then the slope of the line parallel, or the dotted line, is also going to be 2. Remember, parallel lines have the same slope. Number 2, the lines below are parallel. If the slope of the solid line is -3, what is the slope of the dashed line? Well, again, since they're parallel, if the slope of this line is -3, then the slope of that dotted line, this is just a way of naming it, is also going to be -3. Now the next one, the lines below are perpendicular. If the slope of the line is 1/2, what is the slope of the dashed line? So what they're saying is the slope of this line here, right? The slope of that line is 1/2. Okay, so they want to know what is the slope of the line perpendicular. That creates a right angle there. Well, what you have to understand is if the first line is 1/2, the second line is the opposite reciprocal. So what is the opposite of positive? Negative. And what is the reciprocal of 1/2? All I do is flip that fraction, right? 1/2 becomes 2 over 1. And if I simplify that, I would get a slope of -2. So the slope of the line perpendicular would be -2. So for the next one, right, they tell you the slope of the solid line is 4. So the slope of this line is 4. So what is the slope of the line perpendicular to that, meaning the dotted line? Well, again, the opposite of positive is negative, right? And the reciprocal, remember, that can be written as 4 over 1. And the reciprocal of 4 over 1 is 1 over 4. And that would be the slope of the dotted line. Okay? Now, number 5. What is the slope of a line that is parallel to a line with the slope of 9? Again, if the slope of this line is 9, the slope of the line parallel would be the same exact slope, 9. Now the next one, what is the slope of the line that is perpendicular to a line with a slope of -5? So we say the slope of the line perpendicular would be the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of negative is positive, and the reciprocal of 5 over 1, flip the fraction, becomes 1 over 5. So the slope of the line perpendicular would be 1 over 5. All right. Number 7, right? Now when we write an equation of the parallel and perpendicular line, remember, to write any equation, right, the first thing you need is the slope, okay? So the first step we want to do is find the slope of the new line. Okay, then we want to find a point on a line. Find a point, x1, y1, that's on the line. Then what we want to do is write this equation in point slope form. And then finally, we want to simplify to slope intercept form. Okay, now point slope, I'm going to squeeze it up above here again. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then in the end, when we simplify to slope intercept, that would be y equals mx plus b. And we'll go through that in an example. Okay, so the first one, a line has an equation, y equals 1/3 x minus 5. So if we were to graph this, right, you'd have 0, -5, you would go up 1, right 3, and what they want is you to write an equation of a line that's parallel to this line and passes through 3, 2. So if I graph 3, 2, we want to find the equation of a line that's parallel to the blue line and passes through that point. Well, since the lines are parallel, right, if the slope of the blue line or the given line is 1/3, what is the slope of my new line going to be? Well, parallel lines have the same slope, so it's going to be 1/3. If it passes through 3, 2, now I can write my equation in point slope form. So y minus 2 equals my slope 1/3 times x minus, what is x1? 3. So what do I get here? Y minus 2 equals, I'm going to distribute the 1/3. This is how we go from step 3 to step 4. Distribute the 1/3 to get 1/3 x, and then 1/3 times -3, put it over 1, and that would give me -3 over 3, which is -1, so it would be -1. Now, all I have to do is add 2 to both sides to get y by itself, and y equals 1/3 x plus 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. So that's the equation in slope-intercept form. And this is the equation in point-slope form. Okay? Now the next one, using the same line, right? But this time you want to go through that line. So 0, -5, up 1 over 3. But now we want to go through 3, 2, and we want to be perpendicular to this line. Okay? So the only thing I need from this equation is the slope. And the slope of that line is 1/3. It's always a number in front of x. So the slope of my new perpendicular line is going to be the opposite, which is going to be negative. And then the reciprocal of 1/3 would be 3 over 1. So the slope is -3. Well, I have my slope, I have a point, so I write in point-slope form. Y minus 2 equals my slope, -3 times x minus 3. This here, recognize as your point-slope form. Now we want to translate this to slope-intercept. So I distribute the -3. So y minus 2 equals -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -3 is going to give me plus 9. And now to put it in slope-intercept form, add 2 to both sides, and y equals -3x plus 11. And this would be the equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so number 9, use a graph to find equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, so the first one is using this problem at the bottom. All right, so we're going to use, says a river bank, all right, shown by the solid line has the equation y equals 2x plus 8. The right bank passes through 2, 0. What is the equation of the line representing the right bank? Okay. So remember, right, the right bank is your dotted line. So what are these lines? These lines are going to be parallel. So if the slope of this line is 2, the slope of my line parallel is also going to be 2. If I pass through the ordered pair 2, 0, now I can plug this into point-slope form. So y minus 0 equals 2 times x minus 2. That would be the point-slope form. If I distribute, y minus 0 is just y, so 2 times x is 2x. 2 times -2 is minus 4. So this one ends up being a little easier. That's slope-intercept. This is point-slope. Now it says a bridge being designed will cross the river at a right angle, meaning it's going to cross the dotted solid line in a right angle, meaning right angle means perpendicular. The equation of the left bank is y equals 2x plus 8. The center of the bridge will pass through 0, 2. Okay? So right away, the slope of that line is 2. The slope of the line perpendicular, or this bridge, will be the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of positive is negative. The reciprocal of 2, right, or 2 over 1 is 1 over 2. So -1/2 is the slope of my new line. And if I pass through the point 0, 2, remember, this right away is the y-intercept already. So it makes life easy because I could just say y equals -1/2 x plus 2. All right, because remember, if I know the y-intercept b, I already know that value. Okay, Go ahead, try the quiz, and text me your score.